Hello. They say the devil is in the details, but most people don't bother reading the fine print. My wife, Lauren, definitely didn't. She was too busy spending my money, enjoying the life I built, and, most importantly, sneaking around behind my back with a man who could barely afford to fill up his gas tank. I should have been angry, right? Heartbroken, devastated, the usual cliché. But I wasn't, because I knew something she didn't. Something that made this whole situation way more entertaining than it should have been. See, I'm a corporate lawyer. Contracts, loopholes, legal technicalities, that's my playground. And when we got married, I drafted what I like to call the unbreakable contract. A beautifully detailed, airtight prenuptial agreement that ensured, in the event of infidelity, Lauren would walk away with exactly what she brought into the marriage, nothing. But I didn't just throw that in there and hope for the best. No, I made sure she signed it without even realizing what it meant. Let me rewind a bit. Lauren and I met in what I can now only describe as the classic, too good to be true scenario. She was beautiful, charming, and had this way of making me feel like the most important man in the room. At first, I actually thought I had won some kind of cosmic lottery. She made a big deal about how she wasn't interested in my money, how she just wanted to build a life together, how love was more important than wealth. If I had $1 for every time she said that, she might have actually had some savings. She had a decent job at the time, nothing glamorous, but enough to support herself. That didn't last long. Once we were married, her career ambitions mysteriously disappeared, replaced by luxury spa days, designer handbags, and brunches with women who had the same job she did, spending their husband's money. But hey, I didn't mind. I was making more than enough to sustain the lifestyle. I wasn't a fool, though. I knew there was always a risk when you marry someone who suddenly decides employment isn't for them. So, I did what any lawyer in my position would do. I drew up a prenup. And I made it bulletproof. Now, most people think prenups are simple. If we divorce, you get X, I get Y. But I went deeper. Hidden within the standard legal jargon was a beautifully structured infidelity clause. If she cheated, she wouldn't just walk away with nothing. She would be liable for legal fees, damages, and asset losses. And the best part? She signed it without hesitation, because I worded it so carefully that it just looked like standard legal formalities. At the time, I didn't think I'd ever need to use it. But fast forward a few years, and here we are. It started with little things, late-night texts, sudden secrecy with her phone, that unmistakable shift in energy. Then came the extra-long girls' trips, the mysterious expenses on our shared card that she claimed were just for the house. I could have confronted her, could have had a dramatic argument, demanded an explanation. But why? That wouldn't have been nearly as much fun. So I waited. I let her dig her own grave. I played the role of the loving, clueless husband while collecting every piece of evidence I needed. Bank statements, phone records, GPS logs, everything. She thought she was being discreet, but the thing about people who cheat? They always get sloppy. And once I had everything in place, I was ready to watch her world crumble. Lauren thought she was about to walk away with half of everything. She was about to learn the hard way that fine print isn't just for decoration. Patience is a beautiful thing. Most people, when they find out their spouse is cheating, go straight for the screaming, the accusations, the dramatic fights. Not me. See, anger makes people stupid. It makes them impulsive. And the one thing you can never be when you're dealing with a cheater is impulsive. Instead, I let Lauren dig her own grave, one careless move at a time. It started small, like most affairs do. At first, she was just a little too attached to her phone, laughing at texts she'd never let me see. Then came the late nights, the sudden work events that didn't exist, the gym trips where she somehow came home without breaking a sweat. Classic. So predictable it was almost disappointing. I played along, smiled when she kissed me goodbye before meeting the girls for drinks, asked about her day like nothing was wrong, even helped her pick out outfits for her secret dates with her broke lover. That was my favorite part, watching her think she was outsmarting me, completely oblivious to the fact that I was 10 steps ahead. The best part? I had every detail. See, people like Lauren aren't as clever as they think. She used our shared credit card to book hotels, order expensive wine, and buy gifts she never brought home. That's how I first learned his name, Brandon. The absolute stereotype of a bad boy who never grew up. No stable career, always in and out of debt, and probably thought crypto was a personality trait. If Lauren was looking for an upgrade, she failed spectacularly. Of course, I couldn't just confirm it with credit card statements alone. No. I needed airtight evidence. So, I got creative. Lauren loved her car, a sleek white SUV that she called her baby. So one night, while she was in the shower, I did something simple. I slipped a tiny GPS tracker under the driver's seat. Nothing high-tech, just enough to ping me her location whenever I needed it. The first time I checked, I almost laughed. The girl's night out? She never even made it to the restaurant. She drove straight to a low-end apartment complex on the other side of town, Brandon's place. And she wasn't just stopping by for tea and conversation. Oh no. She stayed for hours, long past the point of denying what she was doing. I could have confronted her right then. Could have sent her a screenshot of her location, asked her how the girl's night was going, maybe even watched her scramble for an excuse. But that wasn't my plan. That would have been too easy. Instead, I let her get comfortable. The longer she thought she was getting away with it, the bigger the mess she made for herself. She started getting reckless, texting him while sitting right next to me, leaving receipts from their dates in her purse, even wearing a necklace I never bought her. Every single move she made was another nail in her own coffin. I started documenting everything. Screenshots, GPS logs, credit card records, even security footage. Turns out, the hotel she loved so much had cameras in the lobby, and they weren't shy about sharing footage with someone who asked the right way. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was building a case. The irony? She thought she was outsmarting me, playing the perfect liar, crafting her alibi carefully. But she didn't know about the prenup. She didn't know that the very contract she signed years ago would be the thing that destroyed her. Because while she was busy sneaking around, spending my money on another man, I was getting ready to make sure she walked away with absolutely nothing. And soon, she was going to realize it. Not with a fight, not with a confrontation, but with a legal document that would shatter her entire world. There's an art to revenge. You don't just expose a cheater, you orchestrate their downfall. You don't rush it. You make sure every single step is perfectly placed, every move deliberate, every consequence inescapable. Lauren thought she was playing me, but in reality, she was playing right into my hands. She had no idea that while she was whispering sweet nothings to Brandon, I was carefully dismantling her life from the inside out. By this point, I had everything I needed. The GPS logs, the hotel footage, the receipts, the text she was sloppy enough to leave synced on her laptop. Every single thing she thought was hidden, I had it backed up, neatly organized in a little folder labeled Lauren's Life Choices. But having the proof wasn't enough. I wanted her to experience the fall in real time, to go from thinking she was on top of the world to realizing she had lost everything in the span of a few hours. First, I made sure her financial rug was completely pulled out from under her. Since our prenup ensured she got nothing in the case of infidelity, all I had to do was start separating our accounts. Slowly, methodically. The joint credit cards? Closed. Her car lease? Repossessed. Her phone bill, the one I paid? Canceled. Even the utilities in the house, all in my name. She didn't notice at first. That's the thing about cheaters. They get so wrapped up in the thrill of sneaking around, they don't stop to wonder if the ground is crumbling beneath them. Then came the eviction notice. Not for me, of course. For her. See, while Lauren loved to parade around our home like it was hers, the truth was, her name was never on the deed. She had spent years in my house, living off my income, decorating it with things she bought using my money, never once stopping to think that I could take it all away in an instant. So, I did. I went to my lawyer, served her with a formal move-out notice, and made sure that legally, she had exactly 1 week to get out. But I wasn't done yet. I needed one final act, one last moment where I could watch the exact second she realized her entire life had just gone up in flames. And what better way than to let her believe, for just a moment, that she had one? I set it up perfectly. That night, I told her I was working late, just like I always did. She didn't even try to hide where she was going, straight to Brandon's apartment. And while she was there, probably laughing about how easily she had me wrapped around her finger, I was setting up the grand finale. I waited until midnight, then sent her one simple text. Check the mailbox when you get home. Then, I turned off my phone and went to sleep like a baby. The next morning, that's when the fun really began. I made sure I was already at work when she got back, because I wanted her to experience it alone, in the emptiness of the house she was about to lose. She must have been confused at first, maybe thinking it was an anniversary gift, a sweet gesture from the husband she thought she had fooled. Instead, she opened a single envelope containing a legal notice for divorce, a list of every financial account she no longer had access to, and a breakdown of our prenup clause, highlighted in bold red ink under the section where it confirmed she would be leaving with nothing. Oh, and to top it off, a printed screenshot of one of her texts to Brandon, the one where she called me a boring safety net. I can only imagine the way her hands must have started shaking, the way her stomach must have dropped through the floor as she read each word. I wasn't there to see it, but I knew, because 5 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent her one final message. Read the fine print. You signed it, after all. Then, I blocked her. And just like that, Lauren had officially lost the game. Revenge is like a fine meal. It's best served slowly, with the perfect ingredients, and enjoyed in absolute silence while your opponent watches their entire world collapse in real time. And let me tell you, Lauren's downfall was a Michelin star experience. The morning after she opened my envelope, her reality shifted forever. No more comfortable lifestyle, no more easy money, no more boring husband financing her little adventures. I knew she'd wake up panicked, still hoping this was some kind of misunderstanding. She'd probably reread the documents, trying to find a loophole, some way to wriggle out of the ironclad trap she had willingly walked into. But there was none. I made sure of it. Then came the second wave of destruction. Lauren was a creature of habit. Every morning, she ordered a ridiculously overpriced iced caramel macchiato from the same boutique coffee shop, which she paid for using our joint credit card. Well, not today. Today, she stood at the counter, smiled at the barista, swiped her card, and saw those 3 little words that send shivers down a cheater's spine. Transaction declined. Confusion. Another attempt. Same result. She checked her phone, but guess what? No data plan. No service. No connection to anything. Her phone bill? Cancelled. And just as that confusion settled in, she got the notification. Eviction notice received. That's when it really hit her. The house she decorated. The life she curated. The security she assumed would always be there. Gone. By the time she made it home, I knew the meltdown had begun. I had cameras set up, legally, of course, to track the exact moment she walked up to the front door and saw the movers already packing up her things. Yep, I hired professionals to neatly box up everything that legally belonged to me, which, according to our prenuptial agreement, was all of it. Oh, and her car? Already towed. Because, fun fact, the lease was under my name. And since I was feeling extra generous, I returned it early, leaving her with nothing but memories of the luxury she no longer had access to. I let her stew in that delicious cocktail of confusion and panic for a few hours before sending my final message. You have exactly 48 hours to vacate the premises. Hope Brandon has a couch for you. Oh, but it gets better. Because here's the thing. Lauren might have been losing her comfortable life, but that wasn't enough for me. No, I wanted to make sure she felt the weight of her betrayal in every aspect of her existence. Brandon was next. I had done my research. Brandon wasn't exactly a model citizen. He had unpaid debts, a shady work history, and a tendency to brag online about his investments that never seemed to pay off. He also, conveniently, worked at a gym that I happened to have a business connection with. So, I made a call. One call. That's all it took. By the end of the day, Brandon was jobless, thanks to some highly detailed information I passed along to his employer about a certain employee misusing company resources. Turns out, gyms don't appreciate personal trainers who schedule private sessions in hotel rooms on company time. Who knew? Lauren, freshly evicted and financially ruined, ran straight to him, only to find out that her future was now just as unemployed as she was. Meanwhile, I was sitting on a beach in Miami, sipping a drink paid for by her past stupidity, watching the chaos unfold from a safe distance. She tried reaching out to mutual friends. Nobody answered. She tried calling family. They had already heard the story, thanks to me. She tried posting online, spinning the story in her favor. It backfired spectacularly. Because the final twist? I had already leaked everything. Screenshots, receipts, messages, every lie she had told, every sneaky move she made, exposed. She didn't just lose me. She lost her reputation, her social circle, her financial security, and her lover's stability in the span of 48 hours. And the cherry on top? She still owed legal fees. Because, per our prenup, infidelity meant she was financially responsible for the cost of the divorce. So, as she sat there in her new reality, broke and directionless, she got a letter from my attorney confirming the first bill due in 30 days. Welcome to rock bottom, Lauren. Enjoy your stay. There's a special kind of silence that follows total destruction. It's not immediate at first. There's chaos, screaming, desperate attempts to salvage the wreckage. But eventually, when the dust settles and the reality of true loss sinks in, that's when you get the real silence. The sound of someone realizing they have nothing left. That's where Lauren was now. She had lost everything, and the world around her didn't just stop, it moved on without her. After the eviction, after the financial gutting, after Brandon found himself jobless and equally stranded, I kept tabs just to see how things unfolded. Not because I cared, but because I wanted to witness the exact moment she hit rock bottom. Lauren had always been the kind of person who thrived on appearances. She built her world on the illusion of success, fancy clothes, expensive brunches, perfectly filtered Instagram posts. It wasn't real success, just the performance of it. Now, stripped of everything, she was forced to experience what real survival looked like. The first sign of her downfall? Her social media went quiet. This was a woman who once posted every single detail of her life, from her morning coffee to candid, luxury selfies that took at least 15 attempts. No? Nothing. No updates, no check-ins, no passive-aggressive quotes about new beginnings. I knew what that meant. She was scrambling. And sure enough, the messages started rolling in. Not directly to me, of course. I had made sure she had zero access to me. But through mutual acquaintances, old friends, even distant family members, she started her little campaign of damage control. At first, it was confusion. I don't understand what happened. Jake just lost it. Then, denial. He overreacted. I mean, yeah, I made some mistakes, but he just went nuclear for no reason. Then, manipulation. I was emotionally neglected. He wasn't there for me. What was I supposed to do? The best part? Nobody bought it. See, before I set everything into motion, I had already planted the seeds. I made sure that before Lauren could tell her version of events, the truth was already out there. The credit card records, the hotel bookings, the screenshots of texts, I didn't just keep them for myself. I sent them exactly where they needed to go. Her parents, her closest friends, even some of her coworkers. By the time she started spinning her web of lies, the people around her had already seen the receipts. She wasn't just dealing with financial ruin, she was socially bankrupt, too. And Brandon? Oh, that was the real comedy. Because let's be honest, Lauren wasn't in love with Brandon. She was in love with what he represented: excitement, rebellion, a life without responsibility. But now, Brandon wasn't fun anymore. He was broke, unemployed, and facing eviction himself. He wasn't taking her to fancy hotels or buying her gifts anymore. Now, he was just another struggling nobody. And that was unacceptable to Lauren. She tried sticking it out with him, probably hoping he'd figure something out. But without my money funding her lifestyle, she quickly realized Brandon wasn't the escape she thought he was. He was just a downgrade. So she left. She crawled back to the same social circles she once looked down on, hoping someone, anyone, would give her another shot. But here's the thing about people like Lauren: they burn bridges without even realizing it. She had spent years surrounding herself with people who only cared about her when she was useful, when she had money, connections, a home to host parties in. Now that she had nothing, they weren't interested. And so, the inevitable happened. A few weeks later, I got a text. A new number. I didn't even have to check who it was. I just sat back, grinned, and read it slowly. Jake. I just wanted to talk. Can we meet? Please. I didn't reply. She tried again. I know I messed up. I was stupid. I need help. I don't have anywhere to go. I didn't reply. Then, the final message. I miss you. And that's when I laughed. Because that was the moment she finally understood. I had one. Lauren wasn't just broke. She wasn't just alone. She wasn't just rejected by the same people she once prioritized over me. She was irrelevant. And that was a fate worse than anything I could have planned. So I did the only thing left to do. I blocked her. And just like that, she disappeared from my life forever. Some people believe revenge is about anger. About rage-fueled outbursts, destruction, shouting matches in public, throwing belongings into the street. But those people don't understand true revenge. Revenge isn't about screaming at someone who betrayed you. It's about making them feel the emptiness of their own actions. It's about watching them realize they destroyed their own future and knowing that you didn't even have to lift a finger once the trap was set. Lauren was now living in that emptiness. After I blocked her, I assumed that was it. Game over. She was broke, alone, and humiliated, and I had moved on to a life free from her selfish, draining presence. But here's the thing about people like Lauren. They don't just accept consequences. They try one last time to rewrite the story. I found out through a mutual acquaintance, who was more than happy to update me, that Lauren had taken her final, desperate step. She tried to reinvent herself as the victim. According to her, I had set her up. That I had always been controlling. That I had orchestrated everything because I couldn't handle a strong woman moving on. Oh, the irony. She even tried dating again. Apparently, she went for the sympathy route, playing the role of the abandoned, mistreated woman looking for a fresh start. But there was one problem. The internet never forgets. You see, while Lauren was trying to sell her woe is me story, she didn't realize that her past was already following her everywhere she went. The screenshots of her texts to Brandon, the receipts of her affair, the proof of her financial downfall, they weren't just my personal records anymore. They were out there. Somehow, and I genuinely don't know how, wink, every potential date, every old acquaintance, every possible new friend eventually stumbled upon the truth. She wasn't a victim. She was a cautionary tale. Every attempt to reinvent herself ended the same way, with the men walking away, the friendships never fully forming, the employers hesitating before hiring. Because who wants to take a chance on someone who destroys everything they touch? Her reputation wasn't just damaged, it was radioactive. And me? I was doing better than ever. With Lauren erased from my life, I had nothing holding me back anymore. My business was growing. My bank accounts were untouched, thriving. My peace of mind? Unmatched. And the biggest plot twist? I had started dating again. But this time, it was different. She wasn't someone who saw me as a paycheck. She didn't expect luxury or demand an easy life. She had her own goals, her own success, her own ambitions. And best of all, she actually respected me. I never told her the full story about Lauren. I didn't need to. Because Lauren wasn't important anymore. She had already faded into irrelevance. And that was the final stage of my revenge. Because some people think the worst thing you can do to an ex is destroy them. But the real worst thing is proving that they never mattered in the first place. Bye-bye.